And the trial in the death of Ahmaud Arbery has yet to start, and attorneys are already sparring over what testimony should be admitted in the case. Prosecutors asking the judge to keep some witnesses from testifying that 3 men accused of killing Arbery were acting in self-defense or making a citizen's arrest. The 3 men were charged with murder after Arbery was chased and shot after 2 of the defendants spotted him running in their Brunswick, Georgia neighborhood. The judge wants to hear the testimony before deciding whether it should be allowed in court.